Starting this week, I presented my pitch towards my class. The pitch included my logo, my rationale of my game, mentioning the idea of my project, um, and different types of resources I'll be using, and then, of course, other things like my prototyping and concept art, as seen in this video. If I speed it up. So this video will be showcasing the prototype of my Project 3 so that I've sent, as mentioned here, um, it's a prototype of the different mechanics that I want in my first level. I'm also done two camera controls, and what's shown here, what's mentioned here is not everything. I have shared this build to a few people to gather their thoughts and opinions on the mechanics, the cameras, just to see which one they prefer the most. And of course, the art is just unfinished here because it's supposed to be a prototype. So of course, mentioning here is like when you hide, you cannot move, but there have been a few bugs where you can still jump while holding E to hide. I'll just have to change the script so that it disables the jumping mechanic as well. Um, Other than that, you skip ahead to the follow camera option, where of course the camera follows you. Ignoring that, we go to my site where I have also started work on my site during this week. As seen here, I have my proposal finished, which the proposal goes on explaining about my project, what I plan to do, what I have learned during my course, and how it will help me. And of course, the concept, the different resources we'll be using, how I'll be evaluating, as you can tell by now, uh, and my planning structure of how I intend to do my game. I'll go in more detail about my plan in a tab on my site. Moving forward, I've gone ahead and started working on my site by adding explanations on my different parts. I've also gone ahead and started working on the mentioning what resources I'll be using, such as Unity and Aseprite are my primary resources. Unity, of course, being the game engine, and Aseprite being my pixel art creator. I've referenced them, and I have simply also just made titles for what I'll be doing on the site. There could be, of course, extra stuff that the extra tiles that can be added, but in time you'll be seeing more videos updating these being filled. So, of course, as seen here in the research, I have mentioned the different titles: brainstorming, Trello, risk assessment, one page design, semiotics, color theory, mood board, which I have added subheadings towards these, which allow to post. I have got a file already made for the mentor, but I will be creating the others and then posting them down. Of course, when my questionnaire, as seen above, when that reaches enough responses, I'll be posting them all down here. Well, on the subject of the questionnaire, so by now I only have 6 responses, but in by next week I could have more. And of course, shown here, I have a nice description of my game and of mentioning about the art style and what software I'll be using. I ask a question based on that just to see what their thoughts are, and then simple questions of gender and age. What they believe the age rating should be on my game. Of course, mention art style, even though I have fully decided that it's going to be pixel art no matter what. Um, of course, mentioning other things like the player's design and the enemy concept design, because my game isn't planned to have the enemy in it for this project, but the final game would have the enemy, of course. This is the level design concept, which will be shown later on, of course. Um, and the 3 different logo ideas, which of course will still be mentioned later on. Moving forward, this video is the prototype video. Then after that, mentioning similar games. For now, I have Mega Man in the list because that's primarily the main game I'm referencing towards. Its story and its art style, it's similar. Other games will be mentioned later on, but these two are for the tutorials I'm using for Aseprite or for Unity. Moving on, the playing and production page again it's more filled out than the rest, mainly because I've already started planning my game. As seen here, concept art, final design, and level design will be mentioned in this section where the player, of course, there will be concept art posted here. But as seen here, we have the demo build design, the more closer to final design, but it could change by the end of this project, as mentioned there, subject to change. The main villain, as of course mentioned and explained, will not be in the game, but I've also mentioned his but of course, I've mentioned his basic story and how I've done him. He's stereotypical villain, but with a nice, simple story to understand. Uh, of course, as seen here, I've got the level, and I've explained in more detail how you're supposed to go about this level of climbing and hiding to go over the police officer, down and around to the exit while avoiding him from looking in each direction. Such like in the questionnaire, it's not quite explained as well. So that's why I asked the question if it's easy to understand. And of course, based on the responses so far, it's not super easy to understand. The enemies, of course, I will be posting the concept up there. My game will deal with its difficulty. I'll be creating a bubble, of course, about how I've done it. It's similar to how I've done it in Project 2, of course, where you create a bubble. And then I have also upgraded a bit on my personal development plan by actually creating a structure of how I plan to do things. I will be filling this out, so of course you'll be seeing the changes by next week. I've gone ahead and planned, of course, even during the holiday weeks, because I plan to occasionally work on those days. Um, and of course, by the 24th, my project should be submitted. This is just for if I have anything else to add in my planning and production. Moving on to practical skills, I have, of course, mentioned the 3 different logos, and I've just created simple designs that I will, of course, finish off the text after I've received things like the questionnaire. I will also be creating uploading the videos on how I create these sprites underneath each of the images, so you can easily tell how I made them. These texts are kind of explaining why I made them and how I made them, but the video will show in a tiny bit more detail on what software I used and such and such. Of course, pre-planning the main menu design, which will include the logo that's been chosen, things like the players, art direction, and the mechanics that go with the player, the levels, miscellaneous stuff like office desks and extras, the levels obstacle mechanic, and police officer design. So I'll be going with that. The exit, of course, just mentioning the sprite and mechanic used with it, or script, should I mention. Um, Other things will include like screenshots of my scripts, which will be in the videos, but I will add the screenshots of them here just as well, just to secure my scripts are in the site. And of course, I'll be doing a final game video to showcase the entire game in its entirely on the final day. And of course, we reach the point of the evaluation where I've pre-planned every Monday and Wednesday uh, the days of importance, and then of course a final evaluation. Though I will also likely be doing extra evaluations in between these times, because I don't want to just do 2 days a week. I want to work as much as I can so I can get this game done. Because if I only do 2 days a week, by now that will only be about 21 days to work on my game, which I do not want to do. And I don't want to just have this game be unfinished by then. Meaning, of course, there will be evaluations in between these days. The final thing, as shown already, Project Pitch, which I've gone ahead and explained in more detail about what it is and what it includes. And that should be all for what I have done this week. What I'll be hoping to do next week is, of course, as mentioned, I'll be starting to fill in most of the site work, and I will also be continuing on with concept art and actual sprite work. Maybe I'll have some of the miscellaneous object sprites done next week. Uh, it all depends on how much work I will do.